Welcome back to Hannity. The left-wing journalists over at NBC News have done it again, and this time they've targeted Mitt Romney's adopted African-American grandchild. Watch.
This is the Romney family,
right?
And of course, there on Governor Romney's knee is his adopted grandson, who is an adopted African-American child, Kieran Romney, and he captions for this one.
One of these things
is not.
one of these things. Does he do the same? And that little baby, front and center, would be the one.
And isn't he the most gorgeous? My goal is that in 2040, the biggest thing of the year will be the wedding between Kieran Romney and Northwest. Can you imagine Mitt Romney and Kanye West as in-laws?
I think this picture is great. It really sums up the diversity of the Republican Party.
Yeah,
every RNC. They have the convention, and they find the one black person.
You know, it's really unbelievable, and most of America found nothing funny about that segment. And 2 days later, NBC host Melissa Harris Perry took to Twitter to apologize, writing, quote, "I'm sorry without reservation or qualification. I apologize to the Romney family. I work by guiding principle that those who offend do not have the right to tell those they hurt that they're wrong for hurting." Joining me now with reaction are Democrat strategist Ebony Williams and Republican strategist Crystal Wright. Let me start with you, Ebony.
Sure.
Pretty outrageous comments to hear from Melissa Harris Perry. Do you agree?
I do agree, Eric. I was actually surprised. I'm very familiar with Dr. Perry's work and her writings and teaching, so I was actually really surprised, Dr. Perry herself being the product of a biracial union, her mother, of course, being a white American, and her father, a renowned African-American professor. So I was pretty taken aback, and it was pretty much in poor taste as we saw her exhibiting in her apology, her acknowledgement of that bad taste.
No, go ahead, Crystal, your thoughts on this before we get into it too deep. Go.
Yeah, you know, I'm not surprised at all that Melissa Harris Perry engaged in mocking the only black adopted grandchild of Mitt Romney. I mean, let's remember, this is the same woman who decided to wear tampons on television to say that women and parents decide when a life begins. So not only is it indecent and classless, the fact that she then went back, instead of giving a sincere apology to Mitt Romney, she issued about 5 tweets and created her own personal hashtag to further promote her disgusting brand. I mean, Eric, I'm speechless. And the fact that Ebony just pointed out, she is a product of a white mother and a black father. So what she's saying is, when liberals have biracial babies, they're tolerant, they're beautiful people, but when conservatives like Mitt Romney do it, somehow it's tokenism, and, you know, we can mock them. Right. I think it's disgraceful.
And Ebony, Crystal points out the time that she wore those things on her ears, but she also at one point, Melissa Harris Perry, also at one point said that conservatives using the word Obamacare, using that term, she related that to using the N-word. Now, you want to cut her some slack here, but there seems to be a recurring theme here, a little racial merchanting going on.
Well, I certainly think anyone, again, familiar with the work of Dr. Perry, she can be, very outrageous in some of her rhetoric. And that's not to cut her slack on this particular issue with the Romney grandchild. I think even she, looking back at this with some perspective, saw it was really just just beyond the pale, out of pocket for her. The tampon thing, again, that's Melissa Harris Perry being typical, outrageous Dr. Perry. That's just what she does.
Well, okay, Crystal, is it okay to say that's just what she does? If a conservative were to do something like that, the conservatives will be just raked over the coals for that.
Well, you're exactly right,
But
Eric, and I can't believe, Ebony, that you're saying that's just what she does. She's a professor at Tulane University. She is a host of a network program, and that's not just what people do. When Rush Limbaugh weighed in on Sandra Fluke demanding taxpayers pay for her sex, you know what happened to him? Advertisers pulled ads from his radio show. People demanded he should be fired. We don't see any of that for her.
Very important point here.
Go
Look,
ahead,
everyone
Eric.
has the right to say whatever they want. They can say it whenever they want, with some exceptions. However, the network also has a right to remove her from her program, right?
It's called decency.
They do, Eric. But in fairness, though, Crystal, Rush had advertisers pulled from him because he called that young lady a slut, not because she wanted them to pay for her reproductive health rights. But getting back to the point of Eric's just made, Yeah, you can say what you want. Again, I think Melissa's audience, you know,
I don't
apparently
say what I
supports
want.
this.
She says what she wants. Let's be clear. I'm very respectful. And if she's a journalist,
No, I didn't say you said
she
what you
calls
wanted. Go
herself,
ahead.
but she calls herself a journalist, Ebony, and it lacks so much decency and integrity. And I'm just sitting here scratching my head as a black woman who, you know, my brothers are married to white women. I have nieces and nephews who are mixed race, and it breaks my heart and it makes me sick to my stomach.
Ebony, I'm gonna let you get the last word in here, but here's one of the important things. We're talking about an adopted child. That child is a beautiful child to a beautiful family. Why is she pointing fingers at something as so beautiful as that and innocent as that?
It's beautiful and innocent, Eric, and she acknowledged that part of it after the fact. Look, guys, I think we're all on the same page that this was distasteful. I think this was Melissa's misguided attempt to connect the GOP, but it was misguided because you don't do that to a child, okay? Innocent child is not a public figure, didn't ask to be a part of this game, and that's why it was wrong, and she had to apologize for it, and that's what she did.
All right, very quickly, last thought. Crystal.
Well, yeah, and like as you said, Eric, the child is innocent, the child is adopted, and Melissa took great pleasure as people ridiculed the child as a thing. One of these things is not like the other one, you know. And little Kieran doesn't know what he wants to be when he grows up. God bless Mitt Romney's son for adopting a black child in America when we know black children
we got to go. Ebony and
they don't want to be
Crystal,
adopted.
a very good discussion, guys. We got to leave it right there. Coming up.